What is forensic science? At the scene of a crime, it may not be immediately apparent how a person died, which is why we have forensic science, a subset of science which uses broadly multiple genres of science with the narrow goal of investigating how a person died. Forensic science is an example of criminalistics, the use of different skill sets or expertise applied to the solution of a crime. Let's look at multiple individual pieces of how this works.
This man died. What happened? And more importantly, how can we figure out how it happened? Today, we're going to be using forensic science to discover how this man could have died. Let's look at some examples. The first subset of forensic science that we're going to be looking into is forensic anthropology. Anthropology is the study of humans, their gender, their race, and so forensic anthropology would be to identify what gender, race, ethnicity, age of the person might be if they were deceased and unrecognizable. It also can be used to study the humans and potentially what could have gone wrong. If there is a broken bone, they can potentially identify that is where the person died or such. So if I was an anthropologist, I could see maybe that their spine was broken, and that could maybe help identify that this person has fallen out of a tree and that is the cause of death. And then I can also, as an anthropologist, identify the person, white, male, age 16, 17, something like that. And then from there we can know how old they are and who that person was. Let's move on to the next one. The next subset of forensic science is a forensic engineer. While the anthropologist is off studying potentially how that person died, I am looking into the machinery behind the death and how it might have happened. In this scenario, I might see that the brake pads are no longer working, and that is why the vehicle was not able to stop and hit the person. The next subset of forensic science is forensic odontology, or dentistry. This is the identification and the evaluations of one's teeth to identify them if they are deceased or potentially bite marks on a victim. In this situation, we have a dead person here, and I, as a forensic odontologist, would be able to look at this person's teeth and identify that they are at least 80 years old. Let's move on to the next one. The next subset of forensic science that we're going to be looking into is behavioral and psychiatric forensic science. This is the study not necessarily of what happened and identifying what happened, but the why. Why did this person do what they do, and what were their motives? The idea behind this is to identify what the person's motives were so that they can be prevented in the future, and also see potential danger of that person doing that same thing again. Some more niche subsets of forensic science are entomology and toxicology. Entomology is the study of ants, insects, spiders, and this can be used to track diseases and potentially how people got things like malaria or other insect travel diseases. And toxicology is the study of how chemicals affected the person and potentially how that exposure to the chemicals affected the person and how their death came about. This can also be used to see how chemicals affect people and to prevent further dangers from them. So now let's use what we've learned to try to identify how this person has died. We can rule out toxicology, entomology, and probably odontology because those just do not apply to the situation. We can see that maybe their spine is broken, which we would know from anthropology, knowing that it is not in a position where it would naturally be able to bend, implying that there was maybe some brute force like a car or a bat. If we use some video analysis, find a security camera around here that might have captured the footage, we can track down who did it and then get a behavioral forensic scientist to understand why that person did what they did and their motives to make sure that it does not happen again and to prevent further incidents like this. I've been August. Thank you for sticking with forensic science.